Do you like my poppy? I'm wearing one because today is Remembrance Day. In a moment, at exactly 11 o'clock, on the 11th day of the 11th month of the year, people all over the country will remember those who've been lost in war. Let's all remember together.
Good morning, everyone. HAK operates on traditional lands of the Anishinaabe people. HAK respects treaties that were made on this territory. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past. We dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with the Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Please stand for a moment. As you can see, it's a very special assembly. You're eating with your good audience manners, your hands are in your lap, and you're listening quietly. Thank you. Even though you will see and hear some wonderful speeches and work by our presenters, we will not clap today because of the seriousness of today's assembly. Since the year 1919, Canada has held Remembrance Day on November 11th, and it was the 11th day of the 11th hour when fighting ended, bringing an end to World War I. Ever since then, we have paused on this date at around 11 a.m. to remember the brave men and women who went to war to protect our country and fight for our freedoms we have today.
Stop! Stop here, Snoopy. We have to see this. Look, see these flowers? These are poppies. There's a legend that says where battles were fought, these white flowers all turned red, and in the center of each flower there was a cross. Look here. Remember what I said about poppies? This is the actual British field dressing station. There, Lieutenant Colonel J.M. McRae wrote the famous poem In Flanders Fields. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the larks still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row. What have we learned, Charlie Brown?
We heard Charlie Brown and his friends talk about John McRae's at Flanders Fields. In the poem it stated, "The torch be yours, hold it high." He is asking us to remember the fighting and the brave soldiers involved in these battles. We show our responsibility and our good citizenship by pausing to show that we appreciate the soldiers' efforts and will never forget the sacrifices these brave men and women made for us. Even though some of us HMK are not very old or very big, we still show respect and set an example. Each one of us at HMK take the everyday job of making the world a happier and more peaceful place by spreading joy and kindness. We at HMK can do our part. Could I please ask the grade 3 and 4 students to stand up for a moment, please? You can just stand quietly while still listening. Thank you. This week, many of us have been wearing poppies. Did you know there were hundreds of young farmers, carpenters, mechanics, and bankers, and even some teenagers who left Tenebwa to go off to war? Did you also know that almost 200 of these young people never returned because they died in the war, and some of these people were buried in Flanders Fields across the ocean where the poppies grow? Now, why I've asked the 3s and 4s, if we look at this, this is about the amount of people we lost in the wars from Tenebwa. So that is almost half our school. So that kind of gives you an example of the people we lost. Thank you, grade 3s and 4s, if we could sit down. Today is the day we take time to remember them and all who have given service to our country. This is why we have Remembrance Day. To help us further understand, we'll have a short video followed by a poem from Mrs. Chapman called Why I Wear a Poppy.
Members of our country's military, called the Canadian Armed Forces, have the important job of keeping us and our friends around the world safe. They help bring peace to countries during conflicts. They teach what they know to other militaries so they can protect themselves against danger. And they bring people to safety, deliver supplies like food and medicine, and they help clean up after wildfires, hurricanes, and ice storms here at home. To do this work, members of the Canadian Armed Forces show a lot of courage and strength. They know they might go to places that are dangerous. They know they might see people who are scared or sad and need their help. They know it will be hard work, but they do it because they want to create a better world for us and for future generations.
What helps them through these tough situations is the special bond and friendship that members of the Canadian Armed Forces share. We call this camaraderie. The military members work as a team. They encourage each other and they support each other to complete every mission they are asked to do.
During Veterans Week and Remembrance Day, we have the chance in turn to show them our support. It's a time to think about and thank all military members for doing so much for us, whether they are in the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, or the Special Forces. That includes those who serve and who aren't in the military anymore. We call them veterans.
There are many ways we can remember. One way is by going to a Remembrance Day ceremony. You might have gone to a ceremony at your school, your local cenotaph, or you may have watched it on TV.
Every year, on November 11th, Canadians pause for a moment of silence to remember all those who have served in uniform and have given so much to keep others safe, including those who lost their lives in war.
And a young person like you or me,
Et moi?
or me,
We'll sometimes read the commitment to remember. That is our promise to military members and veterans that we'll always remember their sacrifices. Because of them, we can feel safe, protected, and free.
So during Veterans Week, make sure you wear a poppy over your heart. Attend a Remembrance Day ceremony. Take a moment to thank a veteran or a currently serving member of the Canadian Armed Forces. Listen to their stories and share those stories with others. And let's keep our promise to remember them. To remember their bravery, their sacrifices, and their determination to make a world a safer place.
Why wear a poppy? Please wear a poppy, the lady said, and held one forth, but I shook my head. Then I stopped and watched as she offered them there, and her face was old and lined with care. But beneath the scars the years had made, there remained a smile that refused to fade. A boy came whistling down the street, bouncing along on carefree feet. His smile was full of joy and fun. "Lady," he said, "may I have one?" When she pinned it on him, he turned to say, "Why do we wear a poppy today?" The lady smiled in a wistful way and answered, "This is Remembrance Day, and the poppy there is a symbol for the gallant men who died in war, and because they did, you and I are free. That's why we wear the poppy, you see. I had a boy about your size, with golden hair and big blue eyes. He loved to play and jump and shout, free as a bird who could race about. As the years went by, he learned and grew, and became a man, as you will too. But the war went on, and he had to stay, and all I could do was wait and pray. His letters told of the awful fight. I can still see them in my dreams at night, with the tanks and guns and cruel barbed wire, and the mines and bullets, the bombs and fire. Till at last, the war was won, and that's why we wear a poppy, son. The small boy turned, as if to go, then said, "Thanks, lady, I'm glad to know." That sure did sound like an awful fight. But your son, did he come back all right? A tear rolled down each faded cheek. She shook her head, but didn't speak. I slunk away in a sort of shame, and if you were me, you'd have done the same. For our thanks in giving is often delayed, though our freedom was bought and thousands paid. And so, when we see a poppy born, let us reflect on the burden borne by those who gave their very all when asked to answer their country's call, that we at home in peace might live. Then wear a poppy, remember and give.
Thank you, Mrs. Chapman. We have a very special guest here today. Corporal Zachary Reynolds, an active soldier and former HMK Cub with the Fort Garry Horse Regiment in the Canadian Armed Forces. We are so honored to welcome him here today and to hear his message about Remembrance Day. Welcome, Zach.
Hello everyone, my name is Corporal Zachary Reynolds. Like the principal said, I am a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, and my unit and my trade is called an armored soldier. I've been in the Army for about 8 years. I am part of a team of about 100,000 Canadian Armed Forces soldiers. We work and travel all around the world. Our job is to defend Canadians, help our friends, and uphold the values that we live by. I am so pleased that your staff and faculty have allowed me to be here for Remembrance Day. If you look up on the slide here, this is some photos of myself on my time in the military. On the left side, you'll see a group of people. That was me on my deployment overseas. And as you saw earlier about camaraderie, that is my team when we competed in Poland to just build that strength of camaraderie together. And on the right-hand side, you'll see a group of 4 of us. That was us fighting forest fires this past summer. We fought for about 3 weeks with a guide of wilderness firefighters in British Columbia. This photo represents the Operation Impact and the coalition partners that honor the fallen during Remembrance Day. This is a ceremony in Camp Canada in Ali Al Salim Air Base in Kuwait on November 11th, 2021. During this time, Canada says thank you to people who serve in the military and to people who used to serve in the military, known as veterans. And we take time to remember their bravery, dedication, and skill in building a safer and more peaceful world. Today, I want to tell you what the amazing work the Canadian Armed Forces members have done throughout Canadian history, and why it is important to recognize their achievements and their sacrifices. These are several photos of members during the First and Second World War. I'll touch on a few of them. So on the top left, you'll see members of Royal Hamilton Light Infantry kneeling in the graves of comrades that died in the Battle of Dieppe. In the middle, you'll see members of the 28th Battalion establishing a signal station at the Battle of Vimy Ridge. Very important battle in Canadian history. On the top right, you'll see the final exercise and assault of the landing at Dieppe. And in the bottom left, you'll see Dieppe's Pebble Beach and cliffs immediately following the raid on August 19, 1942. A scout cover had been abandoned. In this photo, you'll see this is the Battle of Papillon. On the top left, there's troops from 2nd Battalion, PPCLI, that are posted in Shiloh, not too far from here. On the top right, you'll see Canadian soldiers setting up machine gun positions to defend themselves. And in the bottom right, you'll see holding up Cap Yong, a painting of Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry in battle. I'll also talk about the Korean War. Lieutenant Mike Levy's spotlight. In 1950, only 5 years after the Allies won the Second World War in Europe, more than 26,000 Canadian Forces members went to Korea to help the United Nations and in South Korea push back the invading North Korean and Chinese forces. Again, these Canadian soldiers were called upon because of their courage and bravery. They stood up for democracy, freedom, and human rights. And again, these soldiers endured treacherous and dangerous circumstances, like during the Battle of Kabyong. In this battle, Canadian soldiers were responsible for defending the outskirts of the capital city of Seoul and preventing the enemy from invading. They were heavily outnumbered, cramped, and together, while grenades dropped constantly from the skies above. Lieutenant Mike Levy was among this group and was tasked with defending the city in these cramped quarters. In order to keep the Chinese enemy from pushing ahead, Lieutenant Levy requested that Allied forces fire the heavy guns at the spot where he and his troops were fighting. This daring move worked and forced the enemy back from their positions. Lieutenant Levy and his troops continued to stand strong and fight hard to defend the city. And after 10 long hours, the enemy finally gave up, retreated. 10 Canadians died in that battle, and another 23 were wounded. 500 Canadian soldiers died in that war alone. But their sacrifices helped to lead to the armistice between South Korea and North Korea, stopping the fighting. In fact, this year marks the 70th anniversary of that truce. Sadly, Canadians contributed to the Korean War were overlooked, that it became known as the Forgotten War. That is why it is especially important to recognize their anniversary and to show that we remember their sacrifice and appreciate those who were forgotten and fought and protected the peace of the past 70 years. Next slide. These photos represent the UN peacekeeping. This year also marks the 75th anniversary of United Peacekeeping missions. The UN peacekeeping forces are made of military members from different countries around the world. Together, they maintain peace in countries around the world where wars and conflicts took place, and where there was a risk of fighting to break out. Canada has played a key role in peacekeeping forces since they were formed after the Korean War. In fact, it was a Canadian, Lester P. Pearson, who won a Nobel Peace Prize for helping establish the UN's first modern peace and police force in 1956. More than 120,000 Canadian peacekeepers have served around the world in places such as Cyprus, Haiti, and Rwanda. My father served in Cyprus. And established 130 Canadian Force members have lost their lives in peacekeeping missions, while many more have been injured. This week, and indeed all year long, is important to remember the sacrifices, to remember all the Canadian forces and peacekeepers they made, and the sacrifices they made to help continue as countries around the world put down the weapons for peace. So current international operations. Today, there are thousands of Canadian Forces members dedicating to help our partners around the world. This includes Canadian soldiers traveling, training members of armed forces of Ukraine so they can defend themselves against the Russians' illegal invasion, as well as our people working hard to uphold safety and stability in places like Latvia, Romania, and others in Baltics, in the sea in Northern Europe, that I was posted there for 6 months. And helping our partners in Asia to defend themselves, to promote peace, and just to name a few. This is important work to help millions of people live more peaceful lives. So there's some domestic operations like I talked about earlier. Operation Lentis. Closer to home, our military is helping fight forest fires in Nova Scotia, Quebec, Northwest Territories, Alberta, and British Columbia over the summers. Canadian Armed Forces members and local firefighters in battle in the blazes to help Canadians gain safety when the fires got too close to their homes. Over the years, Canadian Forces have worked to help Canadians stay safe during natural disasters. That includes hurricanes, flooding, COVID-19 pandemics, and also avalanches in British Columbia. Canadian Forces will continue to be there for communities all across our country. In this photo, it depicts a soldier laying a wreath in Edmonton, Alberta on Remembrance Day. The Canadian Forces values and importance of remembering. As you can see, Canadian Forces members play a very important role in defending Canadians and helping their allies and partners around the world. They go to difficult places and dangerous places, and they fight for freedom, democracy, and human rights. We do this difficult work because we want to see the world become a better place for everyone. I'm proud to be a member of the Canadian Forces. It is an honor to put my uniform on and be a part of this team. I know I speak for every member when I tell you that we are grateful for your support this week and always. There are many ways you can demonstrate your support. In the weeks of Remembrance Day and prior to Remembrance Day and after Remembrance Day, you can wear a poppy. You can remember, you can listen to stories of veterans. You can attend a Remembrance Day ceremony tomorrow, or any of November 11th. You can take a moment tomorrow at 11 o'clock just to remember the veterans. You can speak to any veterans, any current serving members and listen to what they have to say. Because I promise you, every veteran has a million stories that they can tell. And recognize the contributions of everyone who has put the uniform on to defend Canada and Canadians through our history. Lest we forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Corporal Reynolds. I'm so proud of all of you for your good listening and for doing your part to remember by working on Light a Candle, both singing and in sign language. I now encourage all of you to join the Grade 3 choir and show the world we will do our part and remember. Please sing and sign along if you can. Everyone else can stay sitting.
Peace.
Thank you, everyone. In a moment, you will hear the traditional last post. The tune is played in the Army to signal the end of the day. We will stand for the last post at that moment in a moment of silence so that we can think about what Remembrance Day means to each of us. We will know that silence is up when we hear the trumpet players start reveille. The Army tune normally played at sunrise to wake the troops up again. Please rise and stand at attention for the last post, and remain standing and silent until the end of reveille. In this time of silence, I'd only think of the brave soldiers who also what you could do to help this world be peaceful and kind. It is also time to remember of all the wonderful things we can be thankful for because of our freedoms from soldiers like Corporal Reynolds has given us. As we near the end of our service, a big thank you to Ms. Weisger, Mrs. Chapman, Ms. Major for bringing all together to form Light a Candle in song and sign language. Thank you to all the teachers who helped do artwork and decorate our rooms and our halls and our gym. Thank you for all taking it serious as we should. The biggest thank you of all is to you, the Cubs of HMK. Both staff and students here and at home, you have shown that Remembrance Day is important. Tomorrow, the 11th, and all days going forward, remember this at HMK, strive to live up to the HMK expectations. Even though we are not soldiers, and some of us are very young, we can help our school, our community, and our country in our own way. As Terry Fox said, and we went by, I am not a quitter. Our soldiers never gave up in extremely desperate times, and because of this, we have freedoms in our country. We ask that when things get tough, and they will get tough for you, that you never give up, for you are not a quitter. Encourage others. Our soldiers, past and present, have to work together and have each other's back. We ask that you give a helping hand and be kind, helpful words to those when they need it. Kindness is like a flower. Plant it and others will spread like a beautiful meadow, like in Flanders Fields. Let us be the planters of hope and kindness. Do your best. Our soldiers' best is expected every day, even though their job is extremely tough and dangerous at times. Whatever you take on, please always do your best. Whether it be at home, school, or in the community, give your best effort and always strive to be the best you can be. All of you at HMK have exemplified all of these traits and have shown the HMK way. We thank you. We are small in size, but big in heart. Let us not try to follow the example, but be the example. Before we conclude, a special thank you to our guest speaker, Corporal Zachary Reynolds, for your service and dedication to our country. You have been truly a part of making our country true, north, strong, and free. For that, we can never thank you enough. Words are not enough to express our thanks, but know this: the torch has been passed to us, and we will hold it high. We will now close today's ceremony watching a video examples of HMK remembers both past and present. Thank you all for being such a good example, both in school and at home. Keep it up, and take time and care to remember tomorrow on the 11th. Keep being you, keep doing your part. HMK will remember.
Shipped out, they numbered a dozen. Upon my return, we're 100 or so, from the coast and from the prairies. I bet they keep coming. Add one more name from Ontario and carry me home down the highway of heroes. People above, with the flags flying low. Carry me softly down the highway of heroes. True patriot love, there was never more. No visions of glory. I serve without question of personal gain. Seek no justification. It's not part of my story, and it offers no comfort to the ones who remain. Just carry me home down the highway of heroes. People above, the flags flying low. Carry me softly down the highway of heroes. True patriot love, there was never more. Took up my vocation. I was called by my nation without hesitation. My answer I gave. Now I'm not wondering the things that I might have been are no consolation to the forgotten brave. So carry me home down the highway of heroes. People above, with the flags flying low. Carry me softly down the highway of heroes. was never more. There was never more. There was never